Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I am Catherine Bullock. Today, a special broadcast of a show from last year. It is International Women's Day today, a day first observed by the UN in 1977, but with roots going back all the way to 1911. As Muslim women around the world struggle to get their rights given to them by Islam of freedom of education, freedom of expression, we recognize the women who are also having difficulties in their relationships. We have an interview broadcast with a woman who survived domestic abuse and went on to establish an organization helping other women with something called Brave Beginnings. When they leave a relationship and they rebuild their lives, we know that Islam encourages wellness for women, healthy relationships, access to education, and other things in the political sphere. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. Our next guest, Samra Zafar, has a growing list of accolades. Canada's Small and Medium Enterprises Business magazine named her last year one of Canada's top 25 women. Her book, called A Good Wife, Escaping the Life I Never Chose, is an international bestseller and was named in 2019 among CBC's best books. She runs an organization called Brave Beginnings. To talk to us about her work, she joins us now. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Islam. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us and telling us about your important work. So tell us, Brave Beginnings, people might not have heard about it. What do you do?
So, Brave Beginnings essentially came about when I left my abusive marriage, and I realized that the most important thing that I needed in order to heal and survive and then eventually thrive was in human connection. And among talking to a lot of different organizations and serving on boards of different shelters, I realized that there is a gap for post-crisis support for women who are escaping violence. So, you kind of you leave the abusive situation or violence or oppression, and then it's kind of like a prisoner coming out of prison and then being told, okay, go live your life, you're free, and they don't even know where to start. So there's isolation, there's intimidation, there's a lot of judgment, sometimes there's critical cultural criticism, etc., and shame and guilt associated with it. And on average, a woman will go back 7 times to her abuser, and because she just doesn't know how to move forward to build that new life of freedom and dignity. So we come in to help fill that gap through mentorship, through support. So we connect survivors of domestic abuse with mentors who are women from the community, different walks of life, different professions, who want to give back some of their time every month, 2 to 4 hours, to really just be there for somebody, for a survivor, as a friend, as a mentor, as a big sister, and help them along in their journey to build that new life, which oftentimes seems very intimidating to do.
You mentioned going. A woman will go back at least 7 times on average to her abuser. That's such a sad statistical story. What's the number one fear of leaving? Why is it difficult?
It's isolation, it's rejection. I'm also a training a psychiatrist, and I'm in medical school and training to be a doctor and a psychiatrist. And I cannot tell you the importance of even the science behind human connection. And we are wired for connection. The need for connecting with fellow humans actually lies in the most ancient and reptilian part of our brain, which is the brainstem. So when we feel that we will be rejected by the people that we seek approval from, or we will be shamed, or we will be shunned or excluded from society, that actually triggers the same pathways in our brain that are triggered when we're in physical pain. So that is the biggest fear. So, we think that, okay, we can give women housing, we can give them money, we can give them jobs. All of that is important. But at the core of it lies this fear that I will be rejected, I will be shamed, I will be excluded, I will lose all my friends, I will lose my family, I will lose my community. And no one wants to feel that. And that's why a lot of women keep going back, because they just don't know how to build that new community around them. And that fear of rejection and isolation is so strong.
That's pretty interesting that you've named something sort of intangible, because I thought you were going to say the number one fear was I can't get a job, I won't be able to support myself, or I won't know where to live.
Yes, and those things are important, don't get me wrong. But again, those things are there is help out there. There is support out there. It's not perfect, but it is there. And a lot of women do have something that they can use. Like, a one woman that we were able to help last year, she knew how to sew really well. So we helped her set up a home-based sewing business, and that was her entrepreneurial skill. So a lot of times those practical things can be figured out. But you can give a woman $1 million, and if she feels completely isolated and rejected from her family and community, she will go back most likely. It's very difficult to move forward because that is something, like I said, it's essential to our coreness as a human beings.
My sense is that the Muslim community is starting to open up and address these issues. And I mean, I think there's a lot of work to do around, you mentioned shame and guilt and things. On this show over the last year, we've interviewed CEOs and founders of women's shelters like Nisa Homes or Sakina Homes. I attended on the weekend a fundraiser for Nisa Helpline, which is helping women leave abusive relationships. We interviewed this week Annie Mam, who has put out a khutbah series or a Friday sermon series on domestic violence, how to prevent it and how to stop it. And he gave a very clear message. It's wrong and it should not happen. All of these seem to me to be new in our community. I wonder if your sense is that the conversation is changing.
It is changing, yes, but with any kind of change, there's also going to be some resistance. So I also see the other side where oftentimes people are feeling that, oh, well, women leaving are against cultural values, against religious values, and they hang on to that sort of interpretation of Islam, of our principles, of the spirit of Islam, that is actually counterintuitive. So you hear that as well. And Islam doesn't condone abuse. Islam doesn't condone oppression. And women have all these rights, but sadly, the interpretation of it, the practice of it has not been perfect. And you hear that, you do feel that resistance. Like I get messages of shame, messages of hate. And I know that other women who are working in the community, in the Muslim community, other people who are doing this kind of work are also subject to a lot of that criticism. But I think that's kind of where change happens. Change is never comfortable. There is going to be discomfort. There is going to be resistance. There is going to be that push and pull, that tension. And I think in that we are going to be opening a lot of minds of people that, this is not acceptable. This is not okay. And I think it's also important to have that tailored support for Muslim women, because we have different barriers, we have different issues, we have different levels of understanding. And that's why that intersectionality and that putting that survivor in the center of that support is really important.
So you mentioned that one of the things you do then is find a mentor and pair her with a woman. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, for example, let's say there's a woman, she's watching the show and she wants to leave. How would she find out about you? She's not watching the show, let's say, because then she'd find out about you. There's another woman. How do they find out about you, and how do you do that matching?
So currently our model is that we partner with shelters across Canada. Actually, you mentioned Sakina Homes, and they are one of our partners as well. So we partner with shelters and they refer to us survivors that have left because they know their clients well, and they will refer to us women that have made that courageous step to leave, and they're feeling isolated, but they're also motivated to build their new life, and they need some support and friendship and mentoring. And then the mentors we recruit from the community. So whenever I'm a public speaker and an author, and a lot of times women will reach out to me, how can I get involved? How can I help? And we do some screening, we do background checks, we do, assessments of suitability, and then we will intake those mentors and train them so that all of us are on a similar level of empathy and compassion. And we're not giving advice of any sort, we're giving support. What does that look like? So, and then we match a mentor and a mentee based on goals, based on ethnicities, if there are any preferences there, and just kind of getting the right fit. And then they embark on a 1-year mentoring journey. So we actually just became a registered charity. That is a recent news, so we're very proud of it, and we're now looking to expand even more across the country.
Oh, congratulations on becoming a registered charity. That's always a helpful step when you're raising money.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, how do you get your funding? Are the mentors volunteers, or do you give them honorariums?
Everybody is volunteer. So the mentors are volunteer. Currently, the funding has been very self-sustained up until now. Like I said, I'm a public speaker and author, so my speaking proceeds, book proceeds, a part of it goes towards the organization. People would have given us small donations. We've received some corporate donations as well, and we've partnered with other agencies to have that money flow through to us. But now that we have our charitable status, we will be doing proper fundraising and partnering with corporations and individuals to get that money in the door so we can really expand. Because I know that there is a huge need, and we're hopefully filling a gap that is very important for people.
We have about 30 seconds left. Are you able to tell us just one thing that you would tell to a woman who is thinking of leaving or she's just left? One thing, one parting message.
I think the one thing that I often say is that the courage that you seek is within you. Oftentimes we look outside to find that courage, to find that support, but it starts with us. When we give ourselves the permission that, yes, I deserve a better life, I deserve respect, I deserve dignity, and I deserve healthy love, that's when we will find the support outside as well. So give yourself that. The courage you seek is within you. All you need to do is just discover it and use it.
Well, thank you for that beautiful parting message and the work you do. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe and God bless.